Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, watching the stars through the main view screen. The ship had been traveling for 3 weeks into unexplored space. His crew was tired but excited. They were the first humans to venture this far from Earth. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Lisa Rodriguez from her position at the tactical station. She was a sharp officer who had served with Morrison for 5 years. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried to make sense of the readings. Morrison walked over to look at her screen. "What kind of strange?" "It looks like a distress signal, but the pattern is unlike anything in our databases. The frequency is way outside normal human communication ranges." Ben Carter, the chief engineer, looked up from his console. "Sir, whatever is sending that signal is using technology we've never seen before. The power output is massive, but it's fluctuating like something is badly damaged." Morrison felt his heart rate increase. This could be it. First contact with an alien species. Every human had wondered about this moment since they first looked up at the stars. "Dr. Foster, what's your assessment?" Morrison asked the ship's XENOBIOLGIST. Dr. Amy Foster was a young scientist who had joined the crew specifically for this mission. She had spent years studying theoretical alien life forms. "Captain, if this is truly an alien vessel, we need to be extremely careful. We have no idea what their intentions might be or how they'll react to us." Morrison nodded. "Lisa, can you get a visual on the source of the signal?" "Working on it now, sir." Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. After a few minutes, an image appeared on the main screen. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was long and elegant, with a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around it. Parts of the hull were clearly damaged, with what looked like burn marks and torn metal. "My God," whispered Ben Carter. "It's beautiful, even damaged." "Captain, I'm detecting life signs aboard that vessel," Lisa reported. "Multiple life forms, but their biosignatures are completely alien. I can't tell you much more than that they're alive." Morrison made his decision. "Open a channel, all frequencies." "Channel open, sir." Morrison took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Discovery. We have received your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" For several minutes, there was only silence. Then the speakers crackled to life with a voice that was melodic and strange, but speaking perfect English. "Captain Morrison, this is Ambassador Kale 9 of the Zephyrian Coalition vessel Starlight. We are greatly relieved to hear your voice. We have been adrift for many days and feared we would die in the void." Dr. Foster grabbed Morrison's arm. "Captain, how do they know our language?" Morrison held up his hand for silence. "Ambassador Kale 9, this is indeed the first time our species have met. How is it that you speak our language?" "We have been monitoring your broadcasts for some time, Captain. We are skilled at learning new forms of communication. We mean you no harm. We are refugees fleeing a terrible war." Morrison exchanged glances with his senior officers. "What kind of war?" The Hegemony Empire has been destroying worlds across 3 sectors of the galaxy. They are ruthless conquerors who show no mercy to peaceful species. We barely escaped with our lives when they attacked our research station." The bridge fell silent. Morrison could see the concern on his crew's faces. "How many survivors do you have?" 23 of my people remain alive, but several are badly injured." "Captain, we would be eternally grateful if you could provide medical assistance." Morrison looked at Dr. Foster, who nodded. "We can help, but we'll need to learn about your biology first." "Of course. We will transmit our medical data to you immediately. You will find that our people are not so different from yours in many ways." Over the next few hours, the Discovery moved closer to the alien vessel. Dr. Foster worked with the ship's medical team to understand Zephyrian biology. The aliens were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to be made of living crystal. They were beautiful in a way that was both alien and familiar. Ambassador Kale 9 was brought aboard the Discovery for medical treatment. He was nearly 7 feet tall, with features that seemed to shift and change in the light. His voice was like music when he spoke. Captain Morrison, I cannot express how grateful we are for your kindness. In our travels across the galaxy, we have found few species willing to help strangers. Morrison sat across from the ambassador in the ship's medical bay. Tell me more about this hegemony empire. Kale-9's expression grew dark. They are a military force unlike anything you can imagine. They conquer worlds not for resources or territory, but for the pleasure of domination. They have destroyed hundreds of peaceful civilizations. What do they look like? They are large, brutal creatures with thick armor-like skin. They use weapons that can tear apart entire cities. Their ships are massive and dark, built only for war. Dr. Foster entered the medical bay with a tablet in her hands. Captain, I've been analyzing the damage to their ship. The weapon signatures are consistent with the ambassador's description. High-energy plasma weapons designed to cause maximum destruction. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. How many ships do they have? Thousands, Captain. They have been building their fleet for decades. They move from system to system, destroying everything in their path. My people tried to resist, but we are scholars and artists. We are not warriors. Where are they now? Moving toward the core systems. Captain, if they are not stopped, they will eventually reach your Earth. No species is safe from their hunger. For conquest, Morrison stood up and began pacing. This was beyond anything he had imagined when they left Earth. What can be done to stop them? There is hope, Captain. Other species have begun to resist. We have formed a coalition of the survivors, but we need help. We need species like yours, who have the courage to fight for what is right. Morrison looked at his officers. Lisa Rodriguez was studying tactical data on her tablet. Then Carter was checking ship systems. Dr. Foster was taking notes on everything the ambassador said. Ambassador, we need to return to Earth immediately. Our leadership must hear about this threat. Kale-9 nodded. We will accompany you if you permit. It is time for your species to learn the truth about what threatens the galaxy. Morrison ordered the Discovery to set course for Earth at maximum speed. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Humanity was about to enter a war they never asked for. Against an enemy they had never seen. In his quarters that night, Morrison stared out at the stars rushing past. Somewhere out there, an empire of destroyers was moving toward Earth. The question was whether humanity would be ready when they arrived. The emergency session of the Terran Defense Council lasted for 18 hours. Admiral Frank Hayes sat at the head of the long table, surrounded by Earth's top military commanders and political leaders. Captain Morrison had presented everything. He learned from Ambassador Kale-9, and the room buzzed with urgent conversations. The threat is real, Admiral Hayes announced, his voice cutting through the noise. We have confirmed the existence of this hegemony empire through multiple sources. They have destroyed dozens of worlds, and they're moving toward our sector of space. Colonel Ryan Blake, a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, leaned forward. Sir, what kind of timeline are we looking at? According to Zephyrian intelligence, the hegemony fleet could reach our outer colonies within 6 months. We need to act fast. Dr. Kate Miller, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, raised her hand. Admiral, I've been working with Ambassador Kale-9 to understand their culture. The Zephyrians are remarkably peaceful people. They've never engaged in warfare. Before this crisis, that's exactly why we need to help them, said General Patricia Wood. These people are artists and scientists. They don't deserve to be wiped out by some galactic empire. Admiral Hayes nodded. I'm assigning Colonel Blake to lead joint military operations with the Zephyrian Coalition. Dr. Miller, you'll work on establishing communication with other species in their resistance network. Over the next week, Ambassador Kale-9 introduced the humans to what he called the Galactic Resistance Network. The first species they met were the Vexhi, insect-like creatures with 4 arms and compound eyes. Their representative, Queen Voice, Ziktar, spoke through a translation device. The hegemony destroyed our homeworld 3 cycles ago, Ziktar explained to the assembled human officers. They came without warning, burning our cities and killing our young. We barely escaped with a few ships. Dr. Miller studied the alien carefully. How many of your people survived? Less than 1 million from a population of 12 billion. The hegemony does not take prisoners. They destroy everything. Next came the Nereidans, aquatic beings who lived in special water suits when not in their ships. Their leader, Flowsinger Abyss, told a similar story of destruction and loss. Our ocean worlds were boiled away, Abyss said, his voice bubbling through the water in his helmet. The hegemony used weapons that turned our seas to steam. Billions of our people died in agony. The final species was the Sylvan Collective, plant-like beings who communicated through chemical signals that were translated by their biomechanical interpreters. Root Speaker Tallbranch swayed as he spoke. The hegemony cut down our world forests and burned them for fuel. They showed no respect for life. They are destroyers in the truest sense. Colonel Blake listened to each story with growing anger. How long has this been going on? The hegemony has been expanding for over 200 years, Ambassador Kale-9 replied. They started small, but their appetite for destruction has grown. Now they move across the galaxy like a plague. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker, who had been chosen to lead the first joint operations, studied the tactical data. What kind of weapons do they use? Queen Voice Ziktar activated a holographic display. Their ships are massive, built like moving fortresses. They carry weapons that can crack planets. Their soldiers wear armor that our weapons cannot penetrate. But they can be defeated, Ambassador Kale-9 said quickly. We have learned their weaknesses. With human tactical thinking and our combined technologies, we can stop them. Chief Petty Officer Maria Santos was assigned to integrate human and alien technologies. She worked day and night in the engineering bays, learning how Zephyrian, Vexhai, Nereidan, and Sylvan systems worked. It's incredible, she told Colonel Blake during one of their progress meetings. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in some areas. If we can combine our systems with theirs, we'll have a real chance. Dr. Miller spent her time learning about each species' culture and psychology. She wanted to understand how they thought and fought, so the alliance could work together effectively. The Zephyrians are natural leaders, she reported to Admiral Hayes. They've been coordinating the resistance for decades. The other species look to them for guidance. What about their military capabilities? That's what's interesting. For a peaceful species, they seem to know a lot about warfare. Ambassador, Kale-9 has detailed knowledge of hegemony tactics and weaknesses. Admiral Hayes raised an eyebrow. How do you explain that? He says they've been studying their enemy for years, learning everything they can. It makes sense for a species trying to survive. Meanwhile, human pilot Danny Wright was training with alien flight systems. Zephyrian ships were fast and maneuverable, but their controls were designed for beings with different hands and reflexes. The power systems are amazing, he told Chief Santos. These ships can do things our fighters can't even dream of. But something feels off about them. What do you mean? For ships belonging to refugees, they're awfully well armed. And some of the weapon systems look brand new, not like they've been fighting a desperate war for years. Santos made a note to investigate further, but she was too busy with integration work to pursue it immediately. The joint fleet began taking shape at the Luna shipyards. Human vessels were retrofitted with alien technology, while alien ships received human tactical systems. The combination created something new and powerful. Colonel Blake stood on the observation deck of the command ship UES Constitution, watching the fleet assemble. Beside him, Ambassador Kale-9 pointed out various ships and their capabilities. The hegemony will not expect this, Kale-9 said. They have never faced a unified resistance with such diverse technologies. Where will we strike first? Blake asked. We have identified a staging area in the Kepler 442 system. It's a forward base they use to launch attacks on civilian targets. If we can destroy it, we'll save countless lives, Blake nodded. The target made sense strategically. It would be a major blow to hegemony operations and would show the galaxy that the resistance was serious about fighting back. As the fleet prepared for its first mission, excitement and nervousness filled the air. Humans and aliens worked side by side, united in their cause. Everyone believed they were fighting for justice and freedom. Dr. Miller conducted final psychological evaluations of the joint crews. "How do you feel about working with aliens?" she asked Sergeant Alex Torres, a Marine assigned to the assault teams. "It's strange, but they're good people," Torres replied. "They've lost everything to these hegemony monsters. We have to help them." The fleet launched 3 days later, heading toward the Kepler 442 system. Captain Morrison commanded the lead ship, with Ambassador KL-9 serving as tactical advisor. The other alien leaders were distributed among the human ships, sharing their knowledge and expertise. As they entered hyperspace, no one suspected that they were about to attack innocent people. The Zephyrians had painted a perfect picture of heroic resistance against evil oppression. The humans believed completely in their cause. The war was about to begin, but not the way anyone expected. The emergency session of the Terran Defense Council lasted for 18 hours. Admiral Frank Hayes sat at the head of the long table, surrounded by Earth's top military commanders and political leaders. Captain Morrison had presented everything. He learned from Ambassador KL-9, and the room buzzed with urgent conversations. "The threat is real," Admiral Hayes announced, his voice cutting through the noise. "We have confirmed the existence of this hegemony empire through multiple sources. They have destroyed dozens of worlds, and they're moving toward our sector of space." Colonel Ryan Blake, a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, leaned forward. "Sir, what kind of timeline are we looking at?" "According to Zephyrian intelligence, the hegemony fleet could reach our outer colonies within 6 months. We need to act fast." Dr. Kate Miller, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, raised her hand. "Admiral, I've been working with Ambassador KL-9 to understand their culture. The Zephyrians are remarkably peaceful people. They've never engaged in warfare before this crisis." "That's exactly why we need to help them," said General Patricia Wood. "These people are artists and scientists. They don't deserve to be wiped out by some galactic empire." Admiral Hayes nodded. "I'm assigning Colonel Blake to lead joint military operations with the Zephyrian Coalition. Dr. Miller, you'll work on establishing communication with other species in their resistance network." Over the next week, Ambassador KL-9 introduced the humans to what he called the Galactic Resistance Network. The first species they met were the Vexi, insect-like creatures with 4 arms and compound eyes. Their representative, Queen Voice, Ziktar, spoke through a translation device. "The hegemony destroyed our home world 3 cycles ago," Ziktar explained to the assembled human officers. "They came without warning, burning our cities and killing our young. We barely escaped with a few ships." Dr. Miller studied the alien carefully. "How many of your people survived?" "Less than 1 million from a population of 12 billion. The hegemony does not take prisoners, they destroy everything." Next came the Nereidans, aquatic beings who lived in special water suits when not in their ships. Their leader, Flowsinger Abyss, told a similar story of destruction and loss. "Our ocean worlds were boiled away," Abyss said, his voice bubbling through the water in his helmet. "The hegemony used weapons that turned our seas to steam. Billions of our people died in agony." The final species was the Sylvan Collective, plant-like beings who communicated through chemical signals that were translated by their biomechanical interpreters. Root Speaker Tallbranch swayed as he spoke. "The hegemony cut down our world forests and burned them for fuel. They showed no respect for life. They are destroyers in the truest sense." Colonel Blake listened to each story with growing anger. "How long has this been going on?" "The hegemony has been expanding for over 200 years, Ambassador KL-9 replied. "They started small, but their appetite for destruction has grown. Now they move across the galaxy like a plague." Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker, who had been chosen to lead the first joint operations, studied the tactical data. "What kind of weapons do they use?" Queen Voice Ziktar activated a holographic display. Their ships are massive, built like moving fortresses. They carry weapons that can crack planets. Their soldiers wear armor that our weapons cannot penetrate. But they can be defeated, Ambassador Kale-9 said quickly. We have learned their weaknesses. With human tactical thinking and our combined technologies, we can stop them. Chief Petty Officer Maria Santos was assigned to integrate human and alien technologies. She worked day and night in the engineering bays, learning how Zephyrian, Vex-High, Nereiden, and Sylvan systems worked. It's incredible, she told Colonel Blake during one of their progress meetings. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in some areas. If we can combine our systems with theirs, we'll have a real chance. Dr. Miller spent her time learning about each species' culture and psychology. She wanted to understand how they thought and fought, so the Alliance could work together effectively. The Zephyrians are natural leaders, she reported to Admiral Hayes. They've been coordinating the resistance for decades. The other species look to them for guidance. What about their military capabilities? That's what's interesting. For a peaceful species, they seem to know a lot about warfare. Ambassador, Kale-9 has detailed knowledge of hegemony tactics and weaknesses. Admiral Hayes raised an eyebrow. How do you explain that? He says they've been studying their enemy for years, learning everything they can. It makes sense for a species trying to survive. Meanwhile, human pilot Danny Wright was training with alien flight systems. The Zephyrian ships were fast and maneuverable, but their controls were designed for beings with different hands and reflexes. The power systems are amazing, he told Chief Santos. These ships can do things our fighters can't even dream of. But something feels off about them. What do you mean? For ships belonging to refugees, they're awfully well armed. And some of the weapon systems look brand new, not like they've been fighting a desperate war for years. Santos made a note to investigate further, but she was too busy with integration work to pursue it immediately. The joint fleet began taking shape at the Luna shipyards. Human vessels were retrofitted with alien technology, while alien ships received human tactical systems. The combination created something new and powerful. Colonel Blake stood on the observation deck of the command ship UES Constitution, watching the fleet assemble. Beside him, Ambassador Kale-9 pointed out various ships and their capabilities. The hegemony will not expect this, Kale-9 said. They have never faced a unified resistance with such diverse technologies. Where will we strike first? Blake asked. We have identified a staging area in the Kepler 442 system. It's a forward base they use to launch attacks on civilian targets. If we can destroy it, we'll save countless lives, Blake nodded. The target made sense strategically. It would be a major blow to hegemony operations and would show the galaxy that the resistance was serious about fighting back. As the fleet prepared for its first mission, excitement and nervousness filled the air. Humans and aliens worked side by side, united in their cause. Everyone believed they were fighting for justice and freedom. Dr. Miller conducted final psychological evaluations of the joint crews. How do you feel about working with aliens? She asked Sergeant Alex Torres, a Marine assigned to the assault teams. It's strange, but they're good people, Torres replied. They've lost everything to these hegemony monsters. We have to help them. The fleet launched 3 days later, heading toward the Kepler 442 system. Captain Morrison commanded the lead ship, with Ambassador Kale-9 serving as tactical advisor. The other alien leaders were distributed among the human ships, sharing their knowledge and expertise. As they entered hyperspace, no one suspected that they were about to attack innocent people. The Zephyrians had painted a perfect picture of heroic resistance against evil oppression. The humans believed completely in their cause. The war was about to begin, but not the way anyone expected. The joint fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the tactical displays update with new information. Beside him, Zephyrian War Commander Thane 12 studied the readouts with crystal blue eyes. There it is, Thane 12 said, pointing to a structure on the main screen. The Hegemony staging base. From here, they launch attacks on peaceful worlds throughout this sector. Morrison examined the target through the ship's sensors. It looked like a large space station, but something felt wrong about it. The design was too open, too welcoming for a military installation. Commander Blake, what's your assessment? Morrison asked over the communications system. Colonel Blake's voice came through clearly from his position aboard the assault carrier UES Thunder. Sir, the structure doesn't match typical military architecture. It looks more like a trading post or civilian facility. War Commander Thane 12 made a dismissive sound. The Hegemony is clever. They disguise their military bases as civilian structures to avoid detection. This is how they have operated for centuries. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker, leading the fighter squadrons, reported in. Captain, I'm seeing a lot of commercial traffic around that station. Cargo ships, passenger vessels, even what looks like a medical transport. Decoys, Thane 12 said quickly. The Hegemony uses civilian ships to hide their military movements. We must strike before they can launch their attack fleet. Morrison felt uneasy, but the intelligence seemed clear. The Zephyrians had been fighting this war for decades. They knew the enemy better than anyone. All ships begin the attack, Morrison ordered. The human and alien ships moved into position. Weapons charged and shields activated. The joint fleet had trained for this moment, but nothing could prepare them for what came next. The first missiles struck the space station's outer sections. Instead of military explosions, the weapons tore through civilian quarters and shopping areas. Emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels, but they were in languages the humans didn't recognize. Captain, those are civilian distress calls, reported Communications Officer Nick Cooper. They're begging us to stop the attack. Morrison turned to Thane 12. You said this was a military base. It is. The Hegemony forces civilians to work at their installations. They use them as human shields. The attack continued, but Morrison's doubts grew stronger. The defensive weapons on the station were minimal, designed to ward off pirates rather than fight a military engagement. The return fire was scattered and weak. Chief Petty Officer Maria Santos monitored the technical aspects of the battle. Captain, the energy signatures from that station don't match military specifications. This looks like a commercial power grid, not a weapons facility. War Commander Thane 12 moved closer to Morrison. Captain, you must trust our intelligence. The Hegemony is very good at deception. This is why they have been so successful. The space station's main structure began to collapse under the sustained attack. Escape pods launched in all directions, filled with beings trying to flee the destruction. Most of the pods contained families and children. Corpsman Julie Evans and Sergeant Alex Torres were aboard one of the rescue ships, trying to save survivors from the destroyed station. What they found shocked them. Captain, you need to hear this, Evans reported over the radio. We've rescued dozens of survivors, and they're all civilians. Traders, families, even medical personnel. There are no military personnel here at all. Morrison's heart sank. What about weapons, military equipment? Nothing, sir. The heaviest weapons we've found are security devices for dealing with space pirates. This was a peaceful trading station. Among the survivors was a dying being that Torres recognized from the intelligence briefings. It was one of the Hegemony species, but it wasn't the brutal warrior they had been told to expect. Please, the creature whispered in broken English. Why did you attack us? We are not soldiers. We are merchants and healers. Torres knelt beside the dying alien. You're with the Hegemony Empire. You're our enemy. The alien's eyes widened with confusion and pain. Hegemony? Yes, we are part of the Hegemony Defense Corps, but we are not an empire. We are an alliance. We protect smaller worlds from... The creature's voice grew weak. From the Zephyrian expansion. Torres felt his blood turn cold. What did you say? The Zephyrians. They have been conquering worlds for 3 centuries. The Hegemony formed to protect species like yours from their lies and manipulation. The alien died before Torres could ask more questions, but the damage was done. The sergeant immediately contacted Captain Morrison with what he had learned. Morrison confronted War Commander Thane 12 on the bridge. Explain to me why a dying hegemony citizen claimed that you are the aggressors in this war. Thane 12's crystalline features remained calm. Captain, surely you don't believe the desperate lies of our enemies. The hegemony will say anything to turn you against us. But Morrison was no longer listening to the war commander. He was studying the tactical displays, looking at the patterns of destruction they had caused. Dr. Miller's voice came through the communication system from the UES. Constitution. Captain Morrison, I've been analyzing the data from the station. The architectural style, the technology, even the art we're seeing in the wreckage. None of it matches the brutal military culture we were told about. Colonel Blake's voice joined the conversation. Sir, I'm looking at the defensive positions around this system. They're not arranged for offense. This whole setup is designed to protect trade routes and civilian traffic. Intelligence Officer Cooper had been working frantically to decode captured data from the station. Captain, I've broken through their communication protocols. The messages I'm seeing talk about defending against Zephyrian raids, not launching attacks on peaceful worlds. Morrison turned to face Thane 12 directly. War Commander, I want the truth. Right now, the Zephyrian's appearance began to change. The peaceful, artistic demeanor melted away, replaced by something cold and calculating. Captain Morrison, the truth is that your species has served its purpose beautifully. What purpose? To break through the hegemony's defensive lines. They have been protecting the smaller species from our expansion for far too long. Your military strength was exactly what we needed to shatter their resistance. Morrison felt sick. You lied to us about everything? We told you what you needed to hear to join our cause. Your species is remarkably easy to manipulate. You see oppression and immediately want to fight against it. We simply pointed you in the right direction. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Morrison looked at his crew, seeing the same horror and disgust on their faces that he felt in his heart. You used us to attack innocent people. We used you to remove obstacles to our rightful expansion. The galaxy belongs to the strong, Captain. The Zephyrians are the most advanced species in this region. It is natural that we should rule. Morrison's hand moved to his weapon, but Thane 12 raised a crystalline hand. I would not recommend violence, Captain. Your ships are equipped with our technology. We can disable your entire fleet with a single command. The truth hit Morrison like a physical blow. Humanity had been tricked into becoming the military arm of the very empire they thought they were fighting against. They had attacked peaceful traders and protectors, believing they were striking a blow for freedom. What do you want from us now? Continued cooperation. The hegemony has many defensive positions throughout the galaxy. With your help, we can break them all. Morrison looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Lisa Rodriguez had tears in her eyes. Ben Carter was staring at his console in shock. Dr. Foster was shaking her head in disbelief. And if we refuse? Thane 12 smiled, an expression that looked wrong on his crystalline features. Then your Earth will learn what happens to species that disappoint the Zephyrian coalition. The war had taken a turn that no human had expected. They were no longer the heroes of the story. They had become the tools of the very evil they thought they were fighting against. The emergency meeting aboard the UES Constitution brought together every senior human officer in the fleet. Admiral Hayes sat at the head of the conference table, his face grim. The evidence was spread across multiple data screens around the room. The situation is worse than we thought, Admiral Hayes began. Dr. Miller and Officer Cooper have compiled data that shows the extent of the Zephyrian deception. Dr. Kate Miller stood up, activating a holographic display. What we're seeing is a pattern of manipulation that goes back centuries. The Zephyrians have been using this same strategy across the galaxy. The hologram showed a star map with different colored regions. Each color represents a different species that the Zephyrians have recruited to fight their wars. The blue zones are the Vexi territories, the green are Neridan space, and the yellow represents the Sylvan Collective. Colonel Blake studied the map carefully. They're all fighting different enemies. Exactly. The Vexi believe they're at war with the Sylvan Collective. The Nereidans think the Vexi are trying to destroy them. Each species has been given completely different intelligence about who the real threat is. Intelligence Officer Nick Cooper brought up additional data. We've intercepted communications between these species. None of them know about the others. The Zephyrians have kept each group isolated, feeding them specific lies designed to turn them against predetermined targets. Admiral Hayes leaned forward. What about the Galactic Resistance Network that Ambassador Kale-9 told us about? It doesn't exist, Dr. Miller replied. It's completely fabricated. Each species thinks they're part of a grand alliance, but they're actually fighting separate wars against each other. Captain Morrison, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. We need to understand how deep this goes. Are there other species being manipulated like we were? Colonel Blake had been investigating this question. Sir, we've identified at least 12 different species that appear to be involved in conflicts that benefit Zephyrian expansion. The pattern is always the same. The Zephyrians approach a powerful military species, claim to be peaceful refugees, and point them toward a target. What kind of targets? Species that resist Zephyrian control? Worlds that refuse to join their coalition. Trade routes that compete with Zephyrian commerce. The targets are always presented as evil empires or aggressive threats. Dr. Foster had been analyzing Zephyrian biology and psychology. I've discovered something important about how their minds work. Their crystalline neural structure processes deception differently than human brains. What we consider lying, they see as natural adaptation and survival strategy. You're saying they can't help being dishonest? I'm saying that manipulation and strategic deception are as natural to them as breathing is to us. They're not evil in the human sense. They're following their biological programming to expand and control. Sergeant Major Tony Ross had been leading covert intelligence gathering missions. Ma'am, we've located a Zephyrian command facility in the next system. If we can infiltrate it, we might be able to gather more evidence about their operations. Admiral Hayes nodded. Make it happen. We need to know everything. The infiltration team consisted of Ross, communications specialist Carla Washington, and a small group of elite Marines. They used captured Zephyrian technology to mask their approach to the command station. The facility was enormous, hidden inside an asteroid field. As they moved through the outer defenses, Washington intercepted internal communications. Sergeant Major, you need to hear this, she whispered into her radio. They're coordinating attacks across 17 different star systems, all of them using different species as proxy armies. Ross studied the tactical displays through his scope. How many species are they controlling? I count at least 20 different military forces, all fighting separate wars. None of them know about the others. The team moved deeper into the facility, recording everything they could find. The Central Command Center was a massive room filled with holographic displays showing battles across the galaxy. This is incredible, Washington breathed. They're running dozens of wars simultaneously, each one designed to eliminate resistance to their expansion. Ross spotted something that made his blood run cold. Washington, look at display section 7. The hologram showed Earth's solar system with detailed tactical information about human military capabilities. But more disturbing were the notations about other human colonies and their potential as military assets. They've been studying us for longer than we thought, Washington said. These files go back decades. They've been planning this from the beginning. First contact wasn't an accident. They targeted us specifically because of our military potential. The team gathered as much data as they could before making their escape. When they returned to the fleet, the evidence they brought changed everything. Admiral Hayes reviewed the intelligence with his senior staff. According to this data, the Zephyrians have been orchestrating galactic conflict for over 300 years. Every major war in this region has been started by their manipulation. Captain Morrison studied the tactical displays. What about the hegemony? Were they telling the truth about being a defensive alliance? Dr. Miller had been analyzing intercepted hegemony communications. The evidence supports their claims. The Hegemony Defense Corps was formed specifically to counter Zephyrian expansion. They've been trying to protect smaller species from exactly the kind of manipulation we fell victim to. So we've been fighting the good guys this whole time. Colonel. Blake activated another display. It gets worse. Look at this timeline of hegemony formation. Every species that joined did so after being attacked by Zephyrian proxy forces. They weren't conquering worlds. They were responding to aggression. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not only been tricked into fighting innocent people, but they had been fighting the very alliance that was trying to stop the real aggressors. We need to make contact with hegemony leadership, Admiral Hayes decided. If we're going to fix this mess, we need their help. Dr. Foster had been working on communication protocols. I've been analyzing their language, patterns, and cultural markers. I think I can establish peaceful contact. The first attempt to reach hegemony forces was tense. When General Korth of the Hegemony Defense Corps finally agreed to speak with Admiral Hayes, his message was direct. Humans of Earth, we know you have been deceived by the Zephyrians. This is their standard method of operation. We do not hold you responsible for the attacks you have carried out. Admiral Hayes felt some relief, but the guilt remained. General Korth, we want to make this right. How can we help? The damage is done, but it can be limited. The Zephyrians are preparing for their next phase of expansion. With your military strength, they believe they can break through our remaining defensive lines. What do they plan to do then? Complete galactic domination. Every species will either serve the Zephyrian coalition or be destroyed. Your Earth would eventually face the same choice. Captain Morrison joined the conversation. General, we've seen evidence that they've been studying other human colonies. Are our people in danger? The Zephyrians view your species as their most valuable military asset. They will not destroy you while you remain useful. But if you refuse to continue serving their purposes, the implication was clear. Humanity was trapped between serving as tools of galactic oppression or facing destruction. Dr. Miller had been thinking about the bigger picture. Admiral, there's something else we need to consider. If the Zephyrians have been manipulating species for centuries, how many other civilizations are fighting wars based on lies? Colonel Blake pulled up the galactic conflict map. According to our intelligence, there are active conflicts in 47 different regions. If even half of those are based on Zephyrian manipulation, then most of the galaxy is fighting wars based on lies, Admiral Hayes finished. The question is, what do we do about it? The room fell quiet as everyone considered the enormity of the problem. Humanity had stumbled into a galactic conspiracy that had been causing death and destruction for centuries. The Zephyrians had turned species against each other while presenting themselves as peaceful mediators and guides. There's only one solution, Captain Morrison said finally. We have to expose the truth, all of it, to every species in the galaxy. That would mean war with the Zephyrians, Colonel Blake pointed out. They won't let us destroy their carefully constructed web of lies without fighting back. They've already threatened to destroy Earth if we don't cooperate, Morrison replied. At least if we fight back, we'll be fighting for the right reasons this time. Admiral Hayes looked around the room at his officers. Then it's decided. We're going to tear down this web of deception, no matter the cost. The meeting ended with humanity facing its greatest challenge yet. They had to find a way to expose centuries of lies while protecting Earth from Zephyrian retaliation. The fate of the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The human fleet hung motionless in space as the debate raged across the communication channels. Admiral Hayes had called for a vote among all ship commanders, but the decision was tearing the fleet apart. We gave our word to these aliens, argued General Patricia Wood from her position aboard the UES Liberty. Even if they lied to us, abandoning them now makes us no better than they are? Captain Morrison responded from the Defiance Bridge. General, they're not refugees. They're conquerors who used us to attack innocent people. How can we continue supporting them? Because Earth's safety depends on it, Wood shot back. If we turn against the Zephyrians now, they'll destroy our home world. We have families back there, Morrison. Colonel Blake had been listening to the arguments for hours. With respect, General, they're going to destroy Earth eventually anyway. Once they've conquered the galaxy, they won't need us anymore. Dr. Miller added her analysis to the discussion. The psychological profiles are clear. The Zephyrians view other species as tools to be used and discarded. Our usefulness to them is temporary. Admiral Hayes tried to maintain order as voices grew louder and more heated. Some commanders wanted immediate withdrawal from the conflict. Others believed they should honor their commitments regardless of the deception. A few even suggested that humanity should switch sides and join the hegemony. Captain Morrison found himself at the center of the moral crisis. His crew looked to him for guidance, but he struggled with the weight of the decision. Lisa Rodriguez approached him privately during a break in the discussions. "Captain, what are you thinking?" she asked. Morrison stared out at the stars through the observation deck windows. "I keep thinking about that dying hegemony citizen. He was just a merchant trying to make a living, and we killed him because we believed lies. That wasn't your fault. None of us knew, but now we do know. That makes us responsible for what happens next." Then Carter joined them, his face troubled. "Sir, I've been analyzing the Zephyrian technology integrated into our ships. If they activate their control systems, they could disable our entire fleet instantly." "How long would it take to remove their technology?" "Weeks, maybe months, and we'd have to do it without them noticing." Dr. Amy Foster had been working around the clock on a different problem. "Captain, I think I've found something important. The Zephyrian control systems aren't as secure as they think." Morrison turned to her with interest. "Explain." "Their technology is designed to control other species, but it assumes those species think like Zephyrians. Human psychology is different. Enough that we might be able to work around their safeguards." Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker had been leading a secret project with a small team of engineers. "Captain, we've been developing countermeasures to the Zephyrian control systems. It's risky, but we think we can neutralize their ability to disable our ships." The breakthrough came when Parker's team discovered that the Zephyrian control codes relied on predictable behavioral patterns. By thinking and acting in ways the Zephyrians couldn't anticipate, humans could override their systems. Chief Petty Officer Maria Santos worked with Parker to implement the countermeasures. "We'll need to coordinate this across the entire fleet simultaneously. If even one ship fails to break free, the Zephyrians will know what we're doing." Meanwhile, Morrison had been in secret communication with General Korth of the Hegemony Defense Corps. The alien leader had agreed to help humanity break free from Zephyrian control, but the plan would require perfect timing. "Captain Morrison, my forces are prepared to assist," Korth said during their encrypted conversation. "But you must understand the risks. The Zephyrians will respond with extreme violence when they realize what you're attempting." "We understand, General. But we can't continue being their weapons against innocent people. Your species shows great courage. We will do everything possible to protect your Earth during the transition." The plan required careful coordination. Human engineers would simultaneously activate the countermeasures across the fleet, while hegemony forces moved to protect Earth from Zephyrian retaliation. The operation had to happen quickly. Before the Zephyrians could respond, Dr. Miller had been working on another crucial element. "We need to expose the truth to every species in the galaxy at the same time. If we can prove the Zephyrian deception to everyone simultaneously, their web of lies will collapse." Intelligence Officer Cooper had been preparing a massive data transmission. "I've compiled everything we've learned about Zephyrian manipulation. Communication protocols for 47 different species, evidence of their proxy wars, proof of their real intentions. How do we reach everyone at once?" "The Zephyrians have a galaxy-wide communication network they use to coordinate their operations. If we can hack into it, we can send our message to every species simultaneously." The technical challenges were enormous. Sergeant Major Tony Ross and communications specialist Carla Washington led a team to infiltrate the Zephyrian network without being detected. The security is incredible, Washington reported. But they're not expecting an attack from inside their own alliance. We can use their trust against them. War Commander Thane 12 had been growing suspicious of human activities. He confronted Morrison on the bridge of the Defiance. Captain, your people have been unusually quiet lately. Are you planning something you shouldn't be? Morrison kept his expression neutral. We're preparing for the next operation against hegemony forces, as ordered. Good, because any betrayal would be met with the complete destruction of your homeworld. I trust you understand this. I understand perfectly. But Morrison was lying just as the Zephyrians had lied to humanity. The difference was that his deception served to protect innocent lives rather than destroy them. The moment came during what the Zephyrians believed was preparation for another attack on hegemony positions. Human ships across the fleet simultaneously activated Parker's countermeasures. The Zephyrian control systems failed one by one as human ingenuity overcame alien technology. All ships report successful override, Santos announced. We're free of their control. At the same moment, Cooper launched the truth transmission across the Zephyrian communication network. The evidence of their deception began broadcasting to every species in the galaxy. Thane 12 realized what was happening and began issuing frantic orders to his forces. Destroy the human ships immediately. They must not be allowed to spread their lies. But it was too late. Hegemony forces had moved into position around Earth, protecting humanity's homeworld from retaliation. Across the galaxy, species that had been fighting each other based on Zephyrian lies began receiving the truth. Morrison watched as alien ships that had been attacking each other suddenly stopped firing and began communicating. The web of deception was unraveling as species realized they had been manipulated into fighting the wrong enemies. Captain, we're receiving messages from dozens of species, Cooper reported. They're all asking for confirmation of the data we transmitted. Dr. Miller was coordinating responses to the flood of communications. They want to know if the evidence is real. Some of them have been fighting wars for decades based on Zephyrian lies. The Zephyrian response was swift and violent. Their ships began attacking former allies who questioned their version of events. The mask of peaceful cooperation was completely dropped as they revealed their true nature as conquerors and manipulators. All human ships, this is Admiral Hayes, came the announcement across the fleet. We are now at war with the Zephyrian coalition. Our mission is to protect innocent species from their aggression and help establish genuine peace in the galaxy. Morrison felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time since this conflict began, humanity was fighting for the right reasons. They were no longer tools of oppression but champions of truth and justice. Lisa, Ben, Amy, he said to his bridge crew, are you ready to end this war the right way? Lisa Rodriguez smiled grimly as she powered up the ship's weapons. Let's show these crystal-faced liars what humans can really do when we're fighting for something we believe in. The battle for galactic freedom was about to begin, and this time humanity knew exactly who the real enemy was.